This episode is brought to you by Brandon Ball, broker-owner of Dwelling Realty, Keller Williams, Northern Michigan. Are you looking to sell your home? Then look no further. When you list your home with Brandon Ball, you'll get a trusted advisor who will guide you through the entire selling process. With extensive knowledge of the local market, he'll help price your home competitively to attract the right buyers. And with proven marketed strategies, your home will be seen by the most qualified of buyers. With 17 years in the business, you'll have someone experienced who's on your side. Contact Brandon today to get started selling your home. 231-690-4981. That's 231-690-4981. Or Brandon at dwellingrealty.com. What's up, guys? Welcome to the James Boudreaux podcast, where I sit down with people from all walks of life to talk about their stories, experiences, and ideas. This podcast is brought to you by Watson Motors, the official studio sponsor. If you're in need of a Jeep, Ram, or Dodge, or whatever, these guys have you covered with great deals and even better service. So hit them up in Manistee, Benzie, or Ludington, or check them out online at watsonmotors.com. Listen, support the people that support the show. Now let's get into it. So let's get into that a little bit. So what are you doing now? We're going to talk about the book, but I want to lead up to the book. So when I said you were all over my feet, I'm like, what? Now I'm like watching your stories. I'm like, what is she doing? Are you basically kind of taking a break from work?
Yeah. Yep. So just focusing on getting the book out to agents, and it's almost, and I figured like I'm in this like a weird spot in my life where, you know, I've been working on this project for the past, like I want to say like 3 to 4 years, like really focusing on like trying to get this like project done and not just like put it out there and have it like kind of like half-assed. Like I really want it to be good. Like I've been working with like an actual author, a ghostwriter who's been helping me polish this up. But like I'm in a place where just I was like, you know what, I was like, work will always be there, right? I mean, like I like the economy is kind of like sketchy right now, but like I figured I was like, if I don't do this right now and get this like out to the agents and really put a lot of focus into this like one project, that like this is like it, the story is about like my family and their grit and their perseverance, like, and especially with things that are happening right now on a political aspect, I was like, I need to put all the focus in it to get it done, like, you know, like out to agents and get it published, because I don't feel like the time is ever going to be right. So might as well just kind of focus on that. And then after that, like, you know, like who knows what's going to happen, whether I go back to corporate America and go back to 9 to 5, or like this works out and like continue with like a journey of like storytelling and inspiring people. Like, hey, you know, like we don't have to be like stuck in this like grind of just like, and I don't want to like sound like not sensitive, because everybody's got different opportunities, but like you can really do a lot with your life if you just like really focus on it. So
what is the, I mean, you've said memoir. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the kind of the genesis of the book? Yeah. Like, where does it, without giving a bunch of it away, obviously.
Yeah. But. Well, so like I've mentioned, like my childhood was like absolute insanity. So I was like born in Lithuania, back in good old USSR. Watched my country go through independence, and I don't know how much you know about that entire region of like Eastern Europe and like when Berlin Wall fell. So I was like there as a kid, like my parents were like part of the protests and I don't know if you've
that's fucking nuts. I just had 2 podcasts ago a gentleman on, and we were talking politics, and I was telling him my moment where I was like, this is wild. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget it. And the story is, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed as a kid, I don't know, probably 9 or 10, 11, somewhere in this age. I wasn't a teenager, and watching a black and white TV, Ronald Reagan in front of the wall, telling Gorbachev to tear this thing down. And then, I'm an MTV generation. I'm a Gen Xer. So like all this shit was constantly playing out for me. I got MTV on, and this is a moment in MTV's history where they're actually being a little watchful of everything and not just putting videos on all the time. Yeah. And Yeah, I mean, that's my background with what you're getting into, but the fact that your parents were protesters there is kind of like this. The universe is like, hey, people now.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the singing march that happened in the 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania? So like Lithuanians, Eastern Europeans. we're all really great human beings. I talk about perseverance and grit and stuff. But yeah, like their way of protesting was it was like a means by song, right? Where they all these people met on this highway that crossed all the 3 countries, and we all held hands together in a protest. So there's like videos of it, and I can show it to you later and stuff, where like literally I remember specifically like sitting in the car for like, it felt like days, because you like literally drove out to the highway and you parked and you waited for somebody. Like all of a sudden my parents are like, all right, it's time. So like the time came and we all went and we all held hands together. We had everybody had the flags and stuff, and we're like an independent country, like adios bichacha USSR.
That's, and when shit like that happens today, they fucking bomb them. I mean, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you watch the news today, protest comes up someplace and they're like, nah, end that shit.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm surprised that it didn't end that way. I mean, there was definitely backlash from, the Russians when that happened, when we're we're independent. And it's so interesting for me to watch the entire situation of what's happening right now, between Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Europe, because it absolutely kind of blows my mind. Because if you would have asked me, I don't know, 5 years ago, if Russia ever invaded Ukraine, I'd have been like, no, there's no way. I mean, it's 2020, but it's definitely insanity, It's insane of what's happening, just because we literally watched our country gain its independence and become completely corrupt. And I didn't tell a whole lot of people my story, and this is why the story is insane. Imagine, so you have a daughter 9 years old, right? When and the biggest events in my life were happening when I was around 5 or 6 years old, when we gained our independence, when my parents fled the country because there was absolutely no opportunity. So one day, and everything had to happen in secret, right? Because because once we gained our independence, everything was controlled by organized crime. So my dad left first. So that was I don't know. I mean, I was 5 or 6 years old. I kind of remember it, but it wasn't very impactful. I was Dad's leaving. Brought him to the train station, and he took a train from Kaunas to Moscow, and then he flew from Russia to United States on a work visa. And then shortly after, maybe 6 months later, my mom left, and that was horrifying as a kid, having your parents leave, and then all of a sudden
what the fuck were you doing?
I don't know, I was being a kid.
They left you there?
Yes, we stayed with my grandparents. And this is where and I don't want to get in too much of it, because the story is just so insane. So your daughter is 9 years old. So when the real shit hit the fan was when I was 11 years old, right? I haven't seen my father since he left. So when you're 5 years old, so you don't really know your parents. My mom came back for a period of time between that, between being 5 and 11 years old. She came back once, but you're literally growing up with your grandparents, and my parents were trying to make a living and earn some money. And this is where it gets insanity. Imagine you're your daughter's age basically, and she comes home from school one day, and you were there. You weren't there for the last 6 years, right? But my dad was there one day, and it was just kind of oh, hey, nice to meet you, I guess. And then everything that happened afterwards, he spent about, I don't know, I want to say maybe 4 or 6 months in Lithuania, and you could tell something was off, things were kind of off, but everything was super in secret. We spent some time, my dad pulled me and my brother out of school, and we just went on this road trip around Lithuania to go see family and stuff. And then just he appeared one day, like, came home from school and all my bags were packed. The next day, literally like the next day, within 48 hours, we're in Mexico. And that's where the crazy story is just, like, just like that, like being 11 years old and you're like in Mexico getting like trafficked across Mexican border.
Dude.
Yeah.
my hair on my arm. Bro.
Yeah. Talk about learning about cocaine at the tender age of 11. Like, and this was like one of the reasons why I was just like, I needed to like focus and like put work aside and just kind of like have an opportunity to like tell the story right now about what's happening with the border, right? Because it's really tragic and it's really sad, and especially because like I was there when I was 11 years old in 1996 when like being smuggled by the coyotes, like literally like human trafficked by the coyotes, and there's just so many things that people don't understand, like, and it's kind of, I don't know, like the entire story is insane. Like, and I can't believe sometimes, and especially now that the book is almost done, because there's just so many intricate parts of it, you're just kind of like, stop and think about it. Like, it's been like, and I don't know if, you know anything about like exposure therapy, but like, it's literally like writing this book has been like, holy fuck, like my childhood was really screwed up. It was really like, it was insane. But at the moment, right, I was just kind of like, oh, like 11 years old. Like I was like with my friends 3 days ago, and now I'm in the middle of a desert in Mexico.
Why Mexico? Why when everything was packed up and you left, why did you go to Mexico? Why did your family take you to Mexico?
It was, it was, I guess, like from that aspect, like just like an easy way to get through the border to get back to the United States. And it's so insane. Like, my parents were here legally. They were here in the United States legally. They were here on work visas. And they hired an attorney. This is before we went to Mexico, but they hired an attorney to get me and my brother visas to bring us here, because my parents were here for almost, 6 years or so. And, they like blindly trusted these attorneys in Chicago that told them like, yep, everything's like completed. Your visas are ready in Lithuania to bring your kids. And my parents at the moment, they were like advised that they could go and get me and my brother. And my parents at the time, like working entry-level positions, right? My mom was a waitress. My dad was like literally like, he started off working at a junkyard in Chicago. Like he literally learned how to speak Spanish before he learned how to speak English, right? So like they blindly trusted these attorneys that were like, yep, we got these visas for you. So they're like, you can go and get your kids. And so like my parents couldn't afford to both leave United States. So my mom was like, why don't you go and get the kids? You haven't seen them in 6 years, right? So then he goes to Lithuania and he goes to the embassy to pick up the visas, and there's nothing there. Nothing there, yeah. So my parents literally, like, my mom was like the brain behind the operation, and I'm not really like, to this day, sure how they found the people that they needed to find in Mexico to like smuggle us across the Mexican border, but they were put in a situation where they were like, there's no other option. And my parents, I mean, like, talk about like achieving the American dream. They came here and they worked so hard. They started a business. My dad still like my mom passed away almost 10 years ago, but they started a business. They pushed us to go to college for me and my brother. I mean, like, they literally like, they hire like, like not only like Americans, but like also like all these people from around the world and stuff. And they work with tons of like immigrants and people from the United States, but they were like, believed in the American dream. I mean,
that's that grit. When you talk about grit, that immigrant grit,
Yeah.
That hard work, that work ethic is, yeah, I mean, your story just kind of, it exemplifies that.
Yeah.
From your folks. But also, they're just like, hey, we're packing up your shit and we're going to go to Mexico. And then, is this like you say coyotes, is it like the cartel? Mm-hmm. And then, so I'm like, are you walking or are you driving to some area? And
Yeah. Well, there was walking, there was taking buses, there was like,
Wild,
yeah,
dude.
it was.
My hands are sweating.
It was insane. It was so insane. So like, and the entire, and there's other books around like immigration and coming here across the like coming here illegally, I guess, whether it's through Mexican border or Canadian, whatever border you want to come from. And I'm not the only one. There's tons of people that have made that journey, right? Like my parents are not the only ones that have like chosen to like, make the choice that they made, which was illegal, right? I understand that. And it's really funny because when I like tell people my story, they're like right away they assume things about me that they don't, like politically they assume things that like I don't stand with, right? Because like I don't think what we did was right, it was wrong, right? Like I'm very self-aware of the fact that like yeah, it's illegal to come here across the Mexican border. But with the choices that my parents had, like they've like chose that, like that was like their option. They were like, we are not leaving the kids in this broken country. And they're just like, Lithuania was so fucked up. It was so fucked up. Like the stories, and when like hearing it from like as an adult now, you're just like, holy crap, I almost got kidnapped a couple of times, right? But it was like almost like a joke to me and my brother. We're coming home from school and like we're like, we know the plan if like somebody with a car pulls up. You're like, yeah, you book it. Because, these people are criminals and they're like looking, because they know families that have fled the country that are sending money back to Lithuania. You're going to be a target.
What a fucking wild way to grow up.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then you come to United States and you're like, and so we came to United States with the insanity of spending like, and I don't remember exactly how long we were in Mexico for. I want to say maybe like less than a month or so. But we came to United States and all of a sudden we're like illegal aliens. And my parents literally like applied for green cards in the United States every single year. Canada, Australia, New Zealand. They were like just trying to find a safe place to land, right? Because they're good people. They're not criminals. I mean, they didn't like smuggle cocaine on purpose across the border. I mean, we didn't know the things that were packed with us, which is like, like when you're 11 years old and all of a sudden you're just like, oh,
you're a mule now.
Congratulations, there's drugs on you. Little did you know. Like, like you're a white kid, you're like two white kids crossing the Mexican border. And then, next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, can you hold this for us, please? And just... It's so insane because the border is filled with terrible things. And like, it is so hard for me to watch videos of anybody struggling, especially like refugees, right? Like, I don't know if you remember this. This was maybe like 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. But there was an incident where a father and a daughter were crossing the river, and I think they were like by El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, where we crossed. But the father had his daughter underneath his t-shirt. She was like, while he was like swimming across the river, and she was holding on to him, and they both drowned. And like, and images like that for me, like going back, I'm like, holy shit, like that could have happened to me and my brother. We could have drowned with my dad. Like, or like, there's just so many stories that we don't know about, like these children that have been missing, right? Like, what happened to them? We don't know. We don't know what has happened, right? So like, I wake up every single day grateful that I'm still here, just because what like the shit that we've lived through in, like during the time in Lithuania and the crime and everything along those lines. And then all of a sudden you're like, literally are being smuggled across the Mexican border with coyotes and then living here illegally for as long as we did. We're literally like we didn't know if we're gonna get like deported by ICE. Like if I came home from high school one day and all of our bags were packed again, you just don't know. So you're living in this constant like state of fear.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how do you process that, especially if you're a kid? How do you not, have like, mentally, that's got to, the stress has got to
constant state of fear. Yeah, constant state of fear. And so what was really interesting, my parents were huge advocates of just like, all right, we're in the United States, we're going to embrace the culture here. My parents were really like, they didn't allow us to really like speak Lithuanian in the household. They want us to like, like learn English right away. And we couldn't tell anybody. They were like literally like just so focused on like just trying to blend in within this society and just do the American thing, like learn how to speak English, like properly fit into the narrative of living within the United States and pretending like, oh yeah, we're like legal here, we're completely fine. And it was like, so I got my green card when I was in college. I think it was like my freshman year of college, and so my friends that I grew up in high school didn't know that I came here. They didn't, like, completely did not know the story of it. So I literally carried the story of like this really rough childhood with me my entire adolescence, teenage years, and then like as like a young adult. So like I got my green card first year of college, and I invited all of my a bunch of my friends from high school. I was just like, hey, you guys come over, we got to celebrate.
And they have no idea.
Yeah, like everybody's just like, what are we celebrating? And I took out this card and I was like, it's a green card. And my friends were like, what? I was like, I'm finally legal, they can't get rid of me. So yeah, I was just like, it was insane. Like I literally lived in this society, like I knew that we were like might get deported any day, but like people around us, like like our friends were just kind of like, they thought that we're just we're fine. So
are you a citizen now?
Yeah, I became a citizen going on 12 years now. And I'm like, it's actually really fascinating. I'm the only person in my family that took out my citizenship, like became a citizen, just because it's really important for me to have the ability to vote. Just because, I feel like I'm contributing human to the society. So, like, having my voice is really important to me. Where, like, my dad is just now going through the process of becoming a citizen. And I don't know if my brother will or not. I think he should, but I don't know. He thinks he's going to go back to Europe, but I don't know. We'll see. Whatever he does.
Yeah, like, you look at shit now with, like, the news is fucking out of control.
Yeah.
Like, I don't consume, I don't watch TV. We have a TV at our house. We don't have cable. We don't, we have like Hulu or whatever. I'll watch.
Do you know
fucking watching Shogun right now, which is insane.
Oh, do you know anybody that watches the news?
Yeah, the boomers.
I think they're the only ones watching the news. Nobody is watching the news. It also, matriculates its way into social media. So you see the clips from national news. But, I'm usually like, I get my news in other areas. Yeah.
I didn't bring any tinfoil today, but.
Where's the tinfoil?
It's all a narrative. Everything, in my opinion, is a carefully crafted narrative on both sides, and they work their narrative as ferociously as possible to divide the country. But when you see shit, when you're talking about this fucking wild story, dude, I can't wait for your book to come out.
Thank you.
Literally, if you were 13, 14, 15 years old, making your way through high school or whatever, and you're illegal, today, now the fear is like, fucking ICE is going to show up and just cuff me and take me to wherever. And that's it. Only because you're not here legally.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm pro border. Like, we got to make it safe.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's not, I do want to make sure that like criminals and shit aren't coming into the country, but like how fucking impossible is that?
Oh yeah.
How
absolutely.
impossible is that to be like, all right, who's who here?
And what is,
because it is such a difficult topic, and I don't think there's anybody who's 100% right on either side who's trying, because the entire government wants a secure border. think that's correct. The left wants one just as bad as the right does, but again, their narratives get twisted or whatever. But when you have a story like yours, like, how can you not be sympathetic to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's insane.
But then also,
the story is wild. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, and also just because like I feel like, and especially like in this day and age with the politics that have been going on for decades now, like watching everything, and like I feel like we're getting wiser, like, and trying to like decipher of what what narrative we've been being fed. And then like having a conversation with somebody like, I would say like myself, that's like, first of all, has lived through communism, lived through absolute corruption, lived through, literally coming here across the Mexican border, and then on top of that, like smuggling drugs unknowingly with you, right? And so like it's really easy to paint the picture whether you're a villain or you're like a victim, right? Because like obviously, like I wouldn't call my parents like, I mean, obviously they're amazing human beings. They're really amazing human beings, and they did what they needed to do to like get us to safety and get us to a place with better opportunity. And then we came across like, like we were guided by literally mafia that helped us come here across. So like I'm like grateful, but then again, like the shit that's also happening, the things that are coming across the border, that terrible things are happening. And I'm just really lucky that I was like, that nothing bad happened. But we knew, it's insane to me, like we knew what was going to happen if we were going to get caught, right? So like when we talk about like politics and stuff, and like a lot of blame got pushed towards, like saying that like, like we were talking about like kids in cages and stuff, like back 5 years ago when we were hearing it everywhere. So like, talk about media and stuff, like that shit was there back in 1996. You can't sit here and tell me that like a president's, it's new. Like I was there. Like, and it's really like, it's James, it is so insane for me to watch like social media, and people talk about politics, immigration, or the stuff that's happening within Eastern Europe, just the world itself right now. People like, have a lot of opinions, and I know most people have like a good heart in it, but like, unless you lived in it, unless you lived through it, there's no way that you can assume like what the reality is, right? The reality is there's corruption everywhere. Like I said, like from the very beginning, like there's money everywhere. You just got to figure out how you're going to pick it up, right? Whether like some people choose to do it through violence and illegal activity, and hopefully we're doing it through just storytelling, I don't know, and inspiring other people to be like, life's not that bad.
Jesus Christ. We
don't have it that bad. I mean, like, we live in absolute paradise.
I mean, yeah, people get it twisted sometimes, and, on occasion I'll get a little heat in the comment section because I talk about how, we legitimately hit the human lottery being born in America.
Absolutely.
And there isn't, I was telling my kids the other day that if you make $35,000 a year, you're in like the top 1% of the world as an earner. And that speaks volumes. I saw a thing the other day where if you have no debt, right, and you have $10 in your pocket, in your wallet, then you're in the top 25%.
How insane is that?
Right?
How insane is that?
So like when people want to come here, we're the first of all, it's like our military, for example, is like Call of Duty. We have all the Master Chiefs here. Like, so we have trillions of dollars in military protection, and we have this vast land that there's so many areas that are untapped, and there's so much opportunity for an education, for entrepreneurship is big. Speaking of the immigrant story, I mean, I know plenty that it's like what they do. They start working and then they start building. Yeah. Like, how can we, so that we can make it even better? And I think it gets a little bit lost on, those that are born here, that it's, you're seeing it more and more with like, it's the quick comforts. And there is no hardship, really, unless, being born in America is probably the best thing that can happen to a human, and then where you're born, or where you live, or how you come into this world. You know, there are some really shitty areas in this country, and you don't get to choose, but you get to decide how you're going to live your life. And I think the American dream is still very much available.
Absolutely. You know? And just like I've said this before, like just having the attitude of gratitude, like it's politics are always going to suck. We're not all going to win. Like we all have different political views, right? But at the end of the day, like, and especially now, like watching people get so divided and watching the media, like the machine accomplishing that, like as somebody that comes from a place of corruption and a war-ridden geographical place, to watch that happen in America where like we're completely being divided, right? Whether because like what you're a left or a right, but at the end of the day, I mean, like we all want the same thing. Whether you vote left or right, we all want to be comfortable. We want to have a decent living. We want our kids to have a safe, a safe place. We just all want the same thing. There's, and it's really sad to watch the division happen. And so and at the end of the day, the biggest message that I hope that I can give to somebody else is just wake up with the attitude of gratitude, because it can be so much worse. So much worse. During the worst moments of my life, and I've lived through some tragic things, and I've seen a lot of fucked up shit. At the end of the day though, I wake up every day and I'm like, holy crap, I'm not in Yemen. I have a driver's license. I own, as a female, I own land. I have the ability to step away from a corporate job to focus writing a book. I am so there's a lot of things negative that happen in your life. We all have our ups and downs, and I mean but at the end of the day, I'm just nobody, I'm not in this border when I can't leave. I'm not nobody's forcing me to sit in the house and make dinner and not be able to talk to anybody. We have it so good here. We did win the lottery. We're able to talk about our opinions publicly without getting stoned.
I mean, it depends on the stone. I mean, you can get stoned pretty hard online, but
I mean,
but also man, whatever.
No, I mean, at least you're not getting. I mean, getting stoned. Yeah. So just it's just we have it pretty good.
Yeah.
Could it be better? Of course, it could be better, but we're not living in the land of lunacy, thinking that we're always going to get our own way. I mean, maybe I don't know. I think that's why travel is so important. I think people need to go outside of the United States and see the real world.
I'd love to travel abroad, but I'm not interested in spending so many hours in a plane. But maybe one day.
Especially now.
Hope
it lands.
That's the other thing too. It's it's 2025 and we're still having wars. We haven't evolved to be hey, maybe we shouldn't be fucking bombing the shit out of other people. Every country. You know what I mean? There's got to be a more diplomatic way to but I think it's inherently human. I don't think it'll ever go away.
Yeah. Well, it's just control for power,
Dude, I mean, the control for power politically is you ever get in Lord of the Rings? Because this is my every fucking person at the highest levels wants to have the precious. They all want to be they're all Gollum.
Yeah. They're
all trying to get that powerful thing because they're going to do good with it.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't believe that.
Well,
they're not going to do good with shit.
Well, it's so going back to what I asked you, what you wanted to do with when you were a kid, what were your dreams and stuff. I literally wanted to be a politician, and at my core, what I really want to do with my life is help other people, right? So back in the day when I thought of a politician, I thought of somebody that gave their service to their community to make it better. And I feel majority of people that get into politics, that's what their intentions are, is make our community better, to like listen to everybody, but like you can't make everybody happy. What a treacherous, why would anybody want to do that? So
yeah, it's tough. I mean, I really focus and try to encourage other people to focus on local politics.
yeah,
Because I mean, if you can build a stronger community, a more positive and open community, that's especially, I mean, that's where you live.
Yeah.
I mean, you want, like you were saying, you want safety, you want comfort, you want to make sure that, your family is protected. And if you can do that in your community, if every community could focus on just taking care of their backyard, I think it would make its way up.
yeah. Instead of focusing on the big picture of the things that we can't change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we gonna change the border? No.
I mean, we'll be arguing about that until when I'm dead and gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy.
It's
absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. We live in really weird time. We really do.
Sometimes I think it's like the multiverse. I mean, we're just like in the weirdest and most crazy and it's fun, wild timeline.
Yeah.
And
Do you ever scratch your head and say, "What the fuck"?
Daily.
Yeah. You're just like literally. You're like, are we watching this? Like, I don't know. I feel like, and especially in the last, like, oh my gosh, politics and the media, you're just kind of like, we are in a clown show. So going back to the book, talking about like, I literally learned how to speak English from watching Flava Flav. Like, talk about MTV and
The Flavor of Love.
The Flavor of Love.
Oh my
Literally,
God.
we're like, we're living through reality TV show, but it's politics. It's people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
It's literally like, and it's a mockery. It's a joke. It's so sad.
I don't think it's real.
Are we living in like a different dimension? I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like going to sleep at night when you go into Shadow Realm and you're just kind of doing for like 8 hours. You're just completely dead to the world. Like, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I guess this is my reality.
Yeah.
It's. So what's the name of the book going to be? Do you have a name?
Yeah. So it's called "This Wasn't in the American Dream" brochure. And finally, like, just getting to a point where the book is almost finished. I didn't even imagine myself being at a very end of the story, and it's really hard for me to I had a really hard time trying to like wrap it up and like, how do you want the book to end? Because like, how do you go from like a story, like, and I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook about this, but like I finally had this realization. I was in a therapy session with my therapist, and just like being like, holy crap, like this project is done. I've been working on it for so many years and it's finally done. And like, where do you want this message to end, right? Like, do you go from like telling this crazy story of like literally like human trafficking and cocaine and like overcoming like being in a place where you're not speaking the language and you're learning how to speak English from like watching Flava Flav, like a guy with a clock around his neck, right? Like, where do you end with that? Like, what's the message?
I don't think you do end with it. I mean, I think I was telling Lena at the coffee shop this morning, I said, I've got a guest coming in here and she is like type A. She's got a high vibe, and I don't know if I can match that vibe today, but what I'm getting at is your vibration is so high and you have one hell of a story. I think this is something that you can continue to tell, and it will continue to evolve. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about like, how hard can it be to get on a TED stage and do a TED Talk? Yeah. I mean, this is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for people to start I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
And I think there's motivation there, and your focus on gratitude and grit and that immigrant spirit. I think that it's limitless. I can see you speaking, being paid to do speech. I think this is something that you're definitely like dialed in on. But I mean, I feel like it could continue to grow. I feel blessed that I get this early peek into it, because I feel like you're going to get more and more with this. It'll be much bigger than this little podcast is, I guess what I'm saying.
And I hope, like, at the end of the day, James, like, I hope more than anything, once this project is done and once it gets published, right, I hope it just gets a message across, like, for people. So our lives are bombarded with so much noise, right? Just so much noise. Just sitting back and just being, like, grateful for the fact that we're like, all right, like, I have a roof over my head. Like, things are not as bad as they seem to be. And I think that, like, and especially with nowadays with social media, it's so easy to, like, just kind of feel like you're so behind in life, right? I mean, like, and just like a reminder, like, we're at a different, everybody's at their own pace, where this isn't a race to, like, achieve anything. And just, like, reminding people, even at your lowest and your worst, like, I mean, like, we have it so good, and you can literally, like, do anything with your life that you want to. Like, you really can. And that is, like, the biggest lesson that my parents taught me, is just, like, all right, like, their biggest job was done, right? They're like, they brought us here to this place, and I mean, like, they gave us an opportunity. I got an education. I have my, like, like, I own land. I'm building a house. And, like, it's doable. It's really doable, even if there's, like, a lot of noise. And even if, like, life falls apart, like, you're still gonna, like, just, like, all you have to do is just kind of, like, shake it off. I mean, if Monica Lewinsky can do it, we can all do it.
Let me ask you a quick question before we button this up. It's a little segue into something different. So did you buy a bunch of land? What are you doing with, because this is one of the things too. It's like, what is she doing? It looks like she bought a farm. Like,
well, I bought land, and it's like, it's incredible. It's beautiful. There's, like, artesian wells on it. There's a brook trout creek that goes through it. And I'm just, like, I'm building a house, and, like, you know what I would love to do with my life? Have you ever seen those, like, videos, TikToks going around about these, like, elaborate, fun Italian dinners in, like, Italy, where, like, you're just drinking and, like, making a meal? Like, I would love to do that, and, like, make flower head crowns for women and be like, here, put this on, take a picture. You're glowing, like, that would be, like, incredible. Have, like, a venue, like, and I don't know, like, I don't think I have the capacity on the land that I bought to be able to do that, just because it is, I've been reminded of this several times, it's a swamp. So there's limitations of that, but, like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm building a house and just kind of figuring out from there what I'm gonna do. But I mean, if I, like, didn't have to worry about finances, I would just literally just make people head crowns, be like, here, go take a picture, you look fabulous.
So so back to the book real quick, though. I just want to get these questions in before we're done, because I'm super interested about it. So with the book, you said you're getting it out to agents. Are these, like, publishing houses, or how is that? Yeah,
so finding a right agent, and then once I find the right partnership with an agent, then trying to find the right publisher. So, like, there's a couple different ways that you can publish a book. You can go through a traditional method, which I'm going through that, or you can do it, like, independently. Self-publish it. I've really felt like I considered self-publishing. But I think at this point, like, I think the story and the message and what I want to do with the project, like, just getting the message across and just kind of reaching the right people, I think traditional publishing is the right way to do it. So finding an agent, once I find the agent, then, like, finding a publisher. So we'll see. And this is, like, uncharted territory for me. So I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
I mean, no, I get the reason to do that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, get it out there. Have you thought about being more vocal in your social media about these glimpses into your life?
Yeah.
And growing a following based on those experiences, because it's tough to do something like that, and then you're building a community, and then you're engaging with that community because they're wanting to know more about you and the story, which could then help lift the book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, like, I mean, now we're getting to that point where, like, building the website, building the social media. And like, I know it's doable to do it by yourself, right? But like, I understand that was why it was so important for me to find like somebody like my ghostwriter who's talented, right? Like, I can tell you the story, like verbalize it, right? But like, when it came to actual words on paper, I wanted to hire somebody who's a professional that can put it in like a really, like, it's an art form, right? Like, I know, like, I don't have the capacity to that. I don't have that background. So same kind of with social media. Like, once I start working on the social media, I'd like to hire people that can help me do it in like in a proper way, because I don't know how to run a social media platform. I mean, I know how to run like my own, but it's just a bunch of like nonsense personal stuff, right?
I mean, your first video should be like, at 9 years old, I brought 15 kilos of cocaine across the border. And then, you start telling a story.
Yeah.
And you do it in clip form, because that's how people consume it today, or maybe a YouTube channel. And
well, this is why you're an expert,
I mean, if I was scrolling and I saw you say what I just said, at 9 years old, I brought 15 kilos of cocaine across the border. I know it wasn't 15, but whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck? And then I take a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Because that's impactful. And then find out that you either have a book out or you're in the process of writing a book, and then I'm going to follow that story, because when that comes out, I want to read about it.
Yeah. And that's why we need people like you that understand that concept, because I'm not talented when it comes to that.
Well, we're going to pump that shit out. So when your book is ready to go, I want a copy. And
absolutely.
We'll get after it, because I can't wait to read it.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah,
you're welcome.
It's been a whole lot of hard work, and talk about like exposure therapy. Ugh.
Yeah, that was the other question. It's like, you bring back, you're in the archive of your memories, pulling this stuff out, and then you got to relive it, and you got to remember it, and that's got its own probably sense of trauma.
Yeah.
Like, even going to bed at night, like, I just thought about all that shit today.
Or you just laugh about it. Like, a lot of times, and I feel like anybody that's had like trauma, like, especially like childhood trauma, you just like laugh it off. Because the book is actually really, it's kind of funny. I wanted to make it funny. Like, there's like some, I don't want it to like read it like it's like some kind of like a horror story. But, I don't know, like, at the end of the day, I want to make people laugh, like, because the story is so fucked up. Like, it's kind of like, it's like, literally, like, I feel like I'm writing a version of, like, Cocaine, like, what's that movie?
Cocaine Cowboys or whatever.
The Cocaine Bear?
Yeah.
You're just like, is this shit real? Like, is this for real? Like, so, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm excited, though. I'm really excited to, like, get it done and finished it. And because, especially, like, I don't know, like, once I'm done with this project, like, I've been working on it for so long, like, shit, like, this is a brand new beginning. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, then you got to wait. I'll listen to authors talk about, their first book, and it's like, I spent 5-6 years doing this thing, and then put it out to publish, and then you wait.
Yeah.
And then you wait. And, it's like a domino effect, though. It's kind of like, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
People just all of a sudden were talking about this book, and then everybody had it. I can fucking remember. I can't remember what years it was, but I remember reading it at the beach, like looking at my wife, going, "This is what you're reading." What a page turner!
Just get some real smut. What a terrible book.
I mean, I got into it.
Oh my god! I feel like we would could do another podcast talking about terrible books that have been written. You're just like, roll your eyes, like, ugh. I mean, I literally like grew up back, like, like I was in college when Eat, Pray, Love came out. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Talk about a disaster. I mean, like, I literally looked up to that book and to that story, just like, oh my god, this independent woman gets her heart broken, and then she goes to Italy and Bali and fixes herself. She goes meditating in India and stuff. But like, talk about like somebody that hasn't taken any accountability for taking work to, like, she's obviously, has some kind of trauma where she like just ups and leaves. Like, your trauma's gonna come with you. You're not gonna go find escape in Italy with pasta. Like, my friend said this, one of the funniest quotes ever, like, she said, like, she's a millennial, we're both millennials, and she's just like, avocado toast is out, therapy's in.
That's a meme.
Yeah.
That's for sure a meme.
It goes to Nicole.
Yeah.
But seriously, just like, like, I feel like there's like a lot of things that we've been consumed where like things are just like, yeah, this is not reality. Like, we've been traumatized, or we had these like things happen to us, and like, this is not how you take accountability. Like, like going to Bali to go like fix your broken relationship is like, your baggage is going to be there, your trauma is going to be there, like nothing's getting fixed. So like, maybe like, and just focusing on like what the underlying issue is.
Yeah, I remember watching the movie, getting to the part where she's like dialed into yoga, going, how longer is this? And it was like another hour and a half after that. And Betsy read the book. I think she read the book, and that's why we watched the movie.
Yeah. But have you watched, and I don't know what the cutoff time for you is,
there
but
is
like,
no cutoff time.
Okay. Have you watched any of those crazy cult documentaries about like the cult with the yoga cult out in like
I've heard of it.
It was like out in LA, or even the lady that turned blue at the end, like, and it was just like, how do you take yoga and turn into a cult?
That's easy when you're a little bit, easily manipulated, and there's a ton of people that are, and it just takes a couple,
and I guess
sessions and you're in.
Yeah, and I guess if you have the mentality of like, there's money everywhere, let's just take advantage of vulnerable people, or just like, I found my community, and next thing you know, you're like on literally like a reality TV like documentary about being in a cult. How
cult leaders
insane.
want two things: control and sex. That's it.
Isn't that what politics are then?
And we've come full circle.
Back to that. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right, though. I mean, that's what control is.
I mean, if you're a cult leader, that's what you're looking for, control.
Yeah.
And
money.
And money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the root of everything.
How sad.
It is pretty sad. Are you still in the beverage industry?
No, I've been out of the beverage industry going on 4 years now. Yeah, so I got into tech sales and just focusing on getting this book published. So, definitely out of the beverage industry. Do
you miss it?
No.
No? You were good at it.
Well, I think it's just sales. I was just good at selling things, and it's. I mean, do you miss it? How do you feel about being out of the industry?
So it's funny you asked. This comes up quite a bit in our house because Betsy, my wife, she'll always. We'll start talking about things that kind of were from that time, and inevitably I think of things. Like when Oberon Day just happened.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I miss getting the product early, building a display, doing hey, you can't buy it until this date, and then seeing the customers come in excited just for this 6-pack or whatever. They got to have their Oberon. It's finally back.
Do you feel like the anticipation is the same?
For Oberon?
I just, in general, I feel like craft beer was just there was so much anticipation build up around release dates and everything along those lines. Do you feel like that's the same anymore?
I don't. I think that's the fault of the breweries for trying to continually build anticipation for products. And products that were probably a little bit lackluster.
Yeah.
And, making people stand in line for a bottle. I mean, that shit's ridiculous. It's just like allocated bourbons. It's like,
it's anticipation.
Yeah.
It's the power of habit, right?
Right.
Building something for people to be excited about. I don't know. I mean, so I guess, I got into beer industry when the boom first came out, right? It was just do you remember when beer festivals first started happening, and you were like,
when they were rad?
Oh my gosh.
And every brewer wanted to be at every single festival?
Yes. And also
now they don't.
I mean, once you've been to one beer festival, you've been to all of them, right? And especially for people that have been in the industry, and especially you're really involved in, I feel in your community and building up the craft beer and the spirits and everything along those lines. It was really fun at first. It was literally remember like going to beer festivals and you'd feel like you go and like the actual brewer was there, being able to talk to them.
Not just like, and not to diminish like a representative of the brewery, because they play a very key role, but consumers, especially beer geeks, when they go to a festival, they want to see the brewer.
Absolutely.
Oh, I want to know like what are all the tricks you're doing?
Yeah. Well, and they also don't want to see a salesperson. They'd much rather talk to the brewer, because I mean, like, that's the man. If you're passionate about something like that, like the last person that they want to talk to is somebody who's selling the product, right? I mean, you actually want to talk to somebody that's like behind them, like the mastery of like the craft, the science behind it. So I don't know. It was really fun. I was in it for almost 10 years, and it was a total blast. But like then you get to a point where like, all right, you're in like mid-30s, like, and like beer alcohol industry is fun to begin with, but like after a while you start questioning your like, and I mean like we could probably have this conversation with so many people within the industry and out of the industry, like you start questioning your relationship with, you know, the alcohol, because
oh god, yes,
you're all of a sudden you're like, so, and especially like being somebody from like within the industry, like you have this like, I don't know, like the need to support your customers, right? And it's fun and it's a blast, but next thing you know, like, is it healthy to be having 2 beers at lunch, you know, Monday through Friday, or maybe every single day?
Yeah.
So it just gets to a point. And like, I think also like what made me really interested in sales is like the psychology behind it. There's just so much. I mean, like you look at the history of beer and alcohol in general, it's something that's supposed to bring people together, but it's also like such a divisive aspect as well. So like, I don't know, like I don't miss, you know, like waking up and feeling like crap every day.
Oh, I don't miss feeling like shit in the morning. That's for sure. I mean, I'm getting ready to do a big race, and it's not till September, but I'm really focused on the training. So at Christmas, I had like two hearteds, and then I just was like, I'm gonna just try to do like a dry January and then see where it goes. And then I went like 80 some days. Oberon Day came out, and I had an Oberon, and then I think I had another one like a week or so ago with a buddy. But you get a real quick like, oh, I feel pretty fucking good today. You know, when you're not, because you know, I would go through streaks where it got to be the same time every day where I'd go to the fridge and grab a beer and then another one, and then be like, I'm making dinner, maybe I'll have one more. So 2-3 beers or more, you know, a day. You don't think anything of it.
That's creating a habit.
And it adds up. And you know, like I wasn't drinking Miller Lights, dog. You know, the average ABV was like 7%. So
yeah, building up your tolerance, right? So the question is, are we getting old, or are the patterns and the habits of consumers shifting, right? And that's what I've always talked about. Like, it was really interesting to watch the entire shift of like, you know, like seltzers coming out. Like right away you could tell, like, you're just like, all right, like this isn't just a trend, this is a shift in people's habits. And I feel like it's so hilarious because like obviously now, like, you know, like I don't know a whole lot of people that don't drink White Claws, right? But like it's like at the very beginning everybody was like either like really against it or really like for it, just because it's like, you know, like the calories are lower, the ABV is lower, but what we were missing was like actually like this is something psychologically people's habits are changing. But in reality, like Anheuser-Busch was like the creator of that. Like Mich Ultra, that is like pre-White Claws, right? Like somebody like where their marketing was like, you know, like
athletes,
people that are like active, they're just like, it was like almost like, all right, like we're gonna go for a run or we're gonna go do some sporting event, whether it's hiking or whatever, and then we're gonna like, you know,
have a couple of beers,
reward ourselves, right? So the question is, are we just getting old, or is like in society our habits changing? Because you're just kind of like,
I think it's societal.
Yeah.
Because to your point about seltzers, White Claws, Trulies, or whatever, I'm not going to say when we were younger, I'll say when I was younger, you had to drink beer if you were underage. Like, there wasn't beer or liquor. There wasn't anything.
You were not having wine coolers?
Or Boone's Farm, right?
Farm?
You know, to be honest with you, I would start every weekend night with a bottle of Snow Creek Berry.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get it going. You
Yeah.
know? And then we'd be drinking Milwaukee's Best. I told this story to a friend of mine yesterday. Well, there was a guy who, Army vet, older dude, definitely had a drinking problem. But we would go to his house because he would buy us beers. We just have to buy him 240s of Budweiser.
Yeah.
And he would live right next to a liquor store. We'd pull in the driveway. He goes, you guys want some beers? I'm like, yes, that's why we're here. Okay, well, you got to get me 240s, and then you got to have a couple beers with me before you go. So we'd go, give him the money. He'd go buy the 30-pack of Milwaukee's Best, get 240s of Budweiser, come back to his house, and we'd have to sit there while he drank a whole 40. And then he'd be like, give me a couple of those beers before you go.
Yeah.
You know, but I guess what I'm getting at is when you're 16, 17 years old, right? Kid show, don't do this. Your only choice if you want to party is shitty, cheap beer.
Yeah.
Right? And now, you know, the younger kids, they still have the same aversion to beer because when you taste beer for the first time, unless you're a complete psycho, you don't like the taste of it.
Yeah.
Right? But a Truly or a White Claw, a little fruity, get the inhibitions going a little bit, you know, and then the advertising of this is more of a healthier alternative to all the other shit you're putting in your body. But let's be honest, White Claw is terrible for you. Just like, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But so the kids aren't, so like the shift in craft beer, the shift in the beer market, they're drinking the things that are more palatable.
Yeah.
And then they're getting a little bit older and they're still finding that beer tastes like shit, so they're staying away from it.
Yeah.
So the crazy craft beer stuff is all really kind of, well, fuck. Have you been staying in tune with the beverage industry? It's like a brewery a day is closing in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's so sad, though, you know?
Yeah.
It is really sad because, like a brewery is like a coffee shop, right? Or it was a place like, I don't know, you're always going to have those consumers that are going to stick to, you're like just a bar, right? Like your dive bar. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like where you build community. But I feel like with breweries, it was really a spot where like...
Very communal.
Yeah.
I've said forever that there should be a brewery in every town.
Yeah.
Because that's where people can come together. And, you know, with the communal seating and, you know, but...
Bring your family, have some beers. It sounds so nice.
Oh, it's romantic.
It sounds so nice. Let the kids run around, mom and dad have a couple of beers, just relax. I mean, yeah. And but the fact is, I mean, like, it just blew up so fast. Like, it kind of makes me wonder. I mean, like, even like just like the industry, like hospitality alone, right? Like when it comes to restaurants and bars has shifted so much. I mean, like, I for sure, like, especially now that I've moved to Frankfurt, I'm kind of like in a really isolated area. I don't go out as much anymore, especially like when I lived in Traverse City and then when I lived in Marquette. I mean, like, and especially when I lived in Marquette, everything was very walkable. So like I was able to, like, you know, get done with work, be able to like walk to a brewery and stuff. But now I'm just kind of like in the middle of the woods. Like, I'm not going to risk driving somewhere, having a couple of beers and then like getting a DUI. It's not the same. But the thought sounds so nice, you know, just like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet up my friends with their babies and go have a beer. It's really shifting. It's really shifting for restaurants and bars, and it's gonna, like, I don't know, it's really interesting. I mean, like, so are you kind of keeping up like with what's going on with the trends? And I don't know like how much you want to talk about.
I'm all in.
Like we can talk about beer, alcohol.
We'll get to everything today. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm dialed. I get the magazines, the Market Watch magazines. I still get them. I still subscribe to them because it was a huge part of my life.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm really interested to see how things come and they go, and it's becoming more with everything. Beverage industry is more and more corporate. You know, liquor stores are now. It's getting to a point where somebody like me wouldn't be able to do what I did because I'm already priced out of the market. You know, I bought my liquor license at a reduced rate, and when I sold everything, I sold it at the top of the market rate.
Yeah.
And you know how liquor licenses work. There's only so many. They're not making new ones. You have to buy what's available. And more, I could see that if something was to, let's just use Manistee as an example. This is just how I see it. I can't imagine that somebody would just come in now and say, hey, I think I want to do a liquor store and I need a liquor license and pay top dollar. I think it's going to be more corporate because that's how high the money is now for it. And you see that with like grocery stores and shit, because grocery stores now, especially since COVID, we're fucking missing here. We don't have enough booze on the floor. We don't have enough beer in the aisles. We don't have enough wine on our shelves. And they're putting more of a focus on that, taking people away from, the little liquor stores.
Yeah.
And I think pretty soon you'll find that close to every city will be a bigger, more franchise-looking, liquor spot. And but like with the breweries, you can see the ones that are corporately owned or kind of have that feel where there's like a shitload of investors and they're like, hey, where we can make a bunch of money is if we had a restaurant, and they have no fucking clue how to run it.
Yeah.
And then they all almost immediately, after the first year or so of being open, well, now we got to start distributing everything. And I think that's where they end up losing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put all their money into trying to have this distribution footprint with their product. And if it doesn't do well in the market, that isn't necessarily the profit center.
Yeah.
But it's in your mind, it becomes the profit center. We got to keep pushing for this, and then we forget about the thing that started us, and then we end up closing.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Exactly what you said. The profit margins, and oh my gosh, and I really don't want to get into this too much because we can talk about this all day long. But the profit margins in distribution, especially I can't even imagine right now. It's just so tough, and you're fighting against these huge corporations and trying to get a spot in the set. It's really, really tough. It really is really tough. And I can't even imagine, so going back to your your side of the aspect of business, right? Owning a retail shop, that is a full-time job unless you come from, I don't know, unless you're handed a large sum of money and stuff, but you really have to put your heart and soul into it, right?
Yeah.
Your margins are thin,
and that's what I mean with the bigger companies coming in, because they can just say, all right, it might cost us $500,000 to frame this place up and get the licensings or whatever, but we also have another $500,000 or more to just pile this place with inventory.
Yeah.
And then it's like a forced savings plan, right? The inventory's there, you're making your 15% margin. Yeah. And then slowly start replenishing that inventory. It's easy when you have the money to start up like that.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I told this story before. Betsy and I were I was sitting at the kitchen table and she was in the living room, and I was doing my very first liquor order for Manistee Beverage. Mm-hmm. And we were like, all right, how much are we going to spend? And I'm like, I don't know, what do you think? $5-6 grand? And, because we initially only wanted it to be a craft beer, fine wine shop. Mm-hmm. I didn't want anything to do with liquor because I had no background in spirits. Yeah. And the only license we could get had the SDD portion of it, the liquor side. So I'm like, oh, well, I guess we can sell a little bit of liquor. I'm thinking we'll start off with the basics, Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, Absolute, shit like that. So, and you know how you order, it's 1 bottle or 3 bottles or 6 bottles. So I was doing 3-bottle increments. And by the time, and the fucking website for the state of Michigan is horrible. There's no ticker on the side, a little thing telling you where you at, how much are you spending until the very end. So I get all the way down to the end, and I'm like, all right, let's look at the order. And I look at, and we had already said, what do you think, $5-6 grand? And I look at it, I looked up at Betsy, and I think I had maybe 30 SKUs. That I was ordering, and it was $20,000.
Oh, Lord.
And towards the end of Manistee Beverage Company, the weekly orders were touching $50,000. Because we worked our way up to that. But this first order, I'm like, fuck, we don't have that kind of money. Yeah. We've already put everything into it.
Yeah.
And I had a very finite amount that I still had to use for potential payroll, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I can't do this. And she's like, you need to start, you better cut that shit now.
Yeah.
You know? And it was wild. And then it just slowly, you know, what really kicked us was the fact that our original liquor set, looked a lot like Meyer, shit like that, you know, it's the basics. But what turned the tide was customers coming in saying, hey, can you order this? I can't get it anymore. Yeah. So we started doing special orders, and then we'd add to the set as it came through, and, you know, slowly but surely we got there. I look at pictures from like the first week or month that we were open, and the store was like, oh, there's nothing in here.
Yeah.
But we thought everything was in there.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to fill, you know? I mean, and when you're sitting on that much inventory as well, and how do you please everybody? Because they're coming into your store and they're like, hey, where's Pappy Van Winkle?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You got any Blantons?
Yeah.
You know?
What do you mean you didn't have, Meyer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And nothing like against, you know, these big stores, and it's just, but like, that's what I'm saying, like, owning a small shop, like when you literally are putting your heart and sweat in, like, it is really tough. It is really, really tough, especially when you're competing with these huge, you know, competitors. And when it comes to, I mean, like, there's a lot of people that will support local businesses, but at the end of the day, man, it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of work.
That's a ton of work. I mean, I never took a paycheck.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, I bet.
You know, Betsy's a CPA, so she did all the payroll and everything. And I mean, I shouldn't say I didn't take a paycheck. My paycheck was $0. Everything went to taxes. So
yeah.
Just to keep the fact, you know, keep me rolling with a W-2 basically. But yeah, like I said, you know, most people don't realize that when you own businesses, you don't really get the financial benefit until you sell it.
Yeah.
You know? Absolutely.
And you've spent I mean, you were there, like, I don't think I've ever, like, saw anybody else but you every time I walked in there.
Well,
you were like the face.
The last year or so, I mean, I had a fucking top shelf team.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was able to branch out more on some of my things that I'm, you know, more passionate about now. But yeah, the first year for sure was key to key. Key to key. You know, we got a little daughter who's 9 now. In the first few years of her life, I mean, she'd see me at night when I came home.
Yeah.
If she was still awake. So, yeah, that was a big driver for me to be like, all right, you know, we had a plan anyways to try to sell it within 10 years or scale.
Yeah.
And the conversation about scaling was always like, you're going to be gone even more.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of hit a ceiling where we were at. And we're like, well, maybe if we got a place on 31 and then made it like a mega bev.
Yeah.
You know, but more employees, more hours, more time, more headaches.
Yeah. And this is, like, I will say that, like, from knowing you, like, how long have we known each other now? Like, I met you when I worked for Storm Cloud,
yeah.
like going on a decade, right? I mean, like, your talents have always been, like, I feel like you are such a strong storyteller. You're very good at, like, no matter what you do, you're good at everything. But
Thank
like,
you.
I feel like this is, like, a really nice niche for you to, like, to be behind the camera and, like, to talk about stories and actually have, like, conversations where instead you're like, you know, I don't know, you know, you're like running a business, and I don't know, I was always so impressed with your, like, your social media, just the way that you tell a story, and you're a funny guy. So I don't know, like, just like, that's why I said, like, do you miss the alcohol, you know, the beverage industry? Like, for me, like, I personally really don't. I mean, it's bittersweet, and I feel like you feel the same way, but now
Yeah.
I feel like we're shifting in different directions where, like, I feel like both of us are kind of, like, focusing more on, like, telling a story and having a narrative, and, like, you know, like, having a little bit of more, like, authenticity when it comes to, like, individually you and, like, you supporting your community and doing all these great things for Manistee County and stuff. So it's really interesting. It was bittersweet. It definitely, like, you know, put us in the past. Like, who knew we'd be, like, sitting down here, like, almost 10 years later talking about things that are, like, completely changed instead of us having, like, a beer and sampling things. We're like here talking about like, I don't know, like I guess like a bigger picture. So again, are we just getting old, or are things really like shifting and within our society, right?
Yeah, I think both. Plus, when you say getting old, I look at that more as like kind of just getting a little bit wiser.
I would agree with that. We're just getting a little bit more experience.
Yeah. I've got older kids, a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. And, when I see them, watching them kind of go through life, it's like, yeah, I've got 30 years of experience on you.
Yeah.
And having that experience and that hindsight kind of sucks sometimes, because it's like, God, if I would have done something a little bit different when I was younger. But you don't know that. I just think it's an evolution. I think we are just getting wiser. We're looking at life.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more narrow. I'm not going to ask how old you are. I'm 47, and the closer I get to 50, I know that I'm going to be closer to 60, and I'm trying to really kind of narrow that scope and be more and do more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that, not to say that anything was wasted when I was younger, but life seemed slow, but then when you look back, it was so fast.
Yeah.
And now everything's just really fast.
Yeah, they're really fast, especially when your kids are getting older. I mean, like, I don't have any children of my own, but, like, watching everybody else's children group, like my nephews and stuff, yeah, life starts rolling really fast, and next thing you know, I mean, like, you're just like, holy crap. Like, so I was going to ask you, like, coming out of the, beverage industry, like, what did you want to do when you were a kid? What was, give me, 3 things that you wanted to do. Like, did you imagine having a career, and if so, what was it?
You're probably going to be like, what the fuck? I mean, I wanted to be like an FBI agent.
I wanted to be a politician.
No, I did not ever want to be a politician.
How sad is that? I would much rather be an FBI agent than a politician.
Yeah, right? I mean, my whole purpose after high school was I was going to go into law enforcement and then work my way into the FBI. It's what my ultimate goal was. And college wasn't for me. I mean, in high school, I did everything I could do just to keep the grades to like a C- level, so that I could play sports and just fucking move on. And then, I remember having a conversation with my guidance counselor, hey, I think I want to go to Michigan or Michigan State. And he was like, yeah, dude, no, that's not happening for you. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I went to Saginaw Valley, and it was a little bit of a culture shock, from a Carhartt kid up in northern Michigan down there. I spent a semester there and, bombed out and joined the Air Force. And kind of continued on that path while I was in the Air Force.
It's definitely seems like a thankless job, and it's like that's a lot of stress put on you. First and foremost, thank you for your service. That is, I feel like it's so important, and thank you for even like trying to be in your community and be part of the whether you wanted to be in like enforcement and stuff. But that's like definitely, that's not an easy job at all. I feel like I'd much rather be doing, podcasts and storytelling than being out on the streets, That's for sure.
It is wild where the paths that are laid in front of you and how you decide to go down them shape your entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up getting a job at the casino here when it first kind of opened, when it was really small. And then I went to the bigger casino and I, helped build the department over there. But I was in the beverage department, and then meeting reps and dealing with reps, and I'm like, oh, that'd be a good job. And then I don't know how do you remember Lakeshore Beverage?
A little bit, yeah.
It went from Lakeshore Beverage to Kent Beverage, and then Alliance bought them. But I worked for Lakeshore Beverage, young. I was like 23 or 24, and I was the beer sales manager there. Like, that was my job. I left the beverage industry at the casino and became the beer sales manager for a Miller House in Manistee, and that kind of just was like, wow, this is fucking great, dude.
How fun, right?
But, I should even go back further, because I cut my teeth in the beverage. I've done everything but drive a semi.
Yeah.
I was actually working for Lakeshore when I was a kid, in the warehouse, filling trucks, and then did a little bit of merchandising. Then left, went to college, went in the Air Force, blah, 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 blah. But so since I was like 16, I've kind of had my fingers in it. And how many people you talk to in the beverage industry is like, once you get their teeth in you, I mean, you worked for Stormcloud. Did you work for Founders?
No. Mm-mm.
But you work for another beer.
No, I work for distributors.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And
but like once the teeth are in, you can always get back in.
Yeah.
Or somebody's like, hey, we've got a job opening. We should call.
Yeah.
And it just kind of works out that way.
Yeah, and especially in like a smaller community like Northern Michigan. Like I feel like now things are really different because like you can get like there's just so many opportunities working remote. But back in the day, you wanted to be in Northern Michigan, I mean, there was not a whole lot of options. So you want to live here, got to take what you got. Or I feel like, and especially, I mean, like I am such a huge, like, I don't know, advocate for like attitude of gratitude, right? Like to think about the fact that we can live in Northern Michigan and do this instead of like a 9-to-5 job where like, we're just kind of like punching the clock and stuff. But instead, I mean, like, I don't know, like we get to do this, right? I mean, like, I wake up every single day and like, and we can get into the book a little bit more, but like my childhood was like insanity. And it was so insane and it was so screwed up. And like now, especially now the book is almost done, like, read, like, like actually seeing it in a page format, reading it, I'm like, I have no idea how I have not got into drugs, how I did not get in trouble, how I went to college, how I got like, like good grades, like, and now I'm like, in a point where like taking like a really bad situation and turning into an opportunity. Like, you say what you want about America, but I tell you, this is like a place that you can make it. There's money everywhere. You just got to figure out how to pick it up.
Dude, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.